All right, welcome to Kratos Publisher Author Interviews, where a segment where we interview some of our amazing and brilliant authors. And today we have the one and only Melanie Janet Mangum. And I would just want you to introduce yourself to the audience. Let's get to know you better.
Well, I'm not sure what you'd want to know, but I've been married for 57 years. I have 3 children and 7 grandchildren, and my life is full of the goodness of God. Is that enough?
That's enough. But I know you've done. I've gone through your bio, and I've seen that you've done quite a lot. You've received some accolades here and there. We just want our audience to sort of know who, beyond that, this very important detail that you've provided.
Well, I didn't know who Jesus was when I grew up. My home had nothing about God in it at all. It wasn't anti-God, it just had nothing. And I married this really, really cute Christian boy. And when I did, he took me to church, and I had this amazing discovery of the life of God and what Jesus would be if you welcomed him into your heart and life in such ways that it changed everything about my life. And one of the things that I was so shocked at is the way he has walked through me and a pathway that he made for me. It's been absolutely amazing. I don't know how to describe it, except I had no idea there was a God. I had no idea there was a Jesus. I had no idea there was a Holy Spirit. And yet, when I said yes to him, everything changed. Everything changed. And I've been able to go to 55 or more countries multiple times, sharing the love of God, seeing miracles, signs, and wonders because of his goodness and his grace. I've had opportunity to meet every culture imaginable, I think, and enjoy the uniqueness of our world.
Wow, that's amazing. It sounds like a very full life to me, and meaningful one, by the way. So we'll just jump right into the questions around your book. And I think the first thing I would like to know is your motivation for writing this book, Until I See Light on the Path while caring for those with special needs. This is one topic that is not really highlighted a lot. I don't know about the United States of America, but even down here in Africa, there's not so much knowledge on how, to navigate, parenting special needs child. So I just want to know what your primary motivation was.
Well, I needed to go to work financially. Went down to the school district and said, what can I do that I can be home with my children? And they put me in special needs classes of quite a variety. I mean, every kind of special needs you could imagine. And for a while I was a sub, and then I became an all-year teacher in a special needs class. And there was one day when I'm walking my children out to the buses and the cars where they go home. And that day was particularly hard when you have such a variety of needs in a classroom. The focus has to be so intense that I just felt drained, like there's nothing left of me. And I'm standing on the grass, making sure my children, my class, get into the various buses and the families picking up the children, when I thought to myself, well, they're with them 24 hours a day. I mean, they're with them all the time, and I'm fried just being with them at a partial of the day. What must it be like? Someone should do something to give a sense of peace or a respite or something for these families. I just, oh, it's awful, Father, how tired they must be. And I was just thinking it and praying it at the same time. And then I know that the Spirit of the Lord put in my mind a parent praying. I just know that was him doing it. And it said this: until I see you face to face, or in the answer that I seek, may I be found in your abiding grace, my soul quieted by your peace. And I thought, okay, that's what they need, a respite of peace. How can I help them have a respite of peace, Lord? And then one of my students was in a book, and I read the book, and then it gave me ideas. And the next thing I know, I'm starting a support group for parents and families of special needs. And I did that for a few years. Yeah.
Okay, so writers always have favorite chapter when they're writing, favorite book, favorite story that they absolutely enjoyed writing about. So for you, what would you say was your favorite chapter in this book?
Oh, I think chapter 8. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
chapter 8.
Uh, could you
Buttercups
tell us?
under ice.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. Buttercups under ice. You call this progress? Question mark. That's the title. We're believing and trusting together that they'll move from a real tense snap, sting, ouch, to a smoothing reliance, comfort, and resilience.
Hmm,
It's really
hmm.
realistic perseverance.
It is. It can be very difficult to remain resilient in spite of everything that is going on, with the care that is given and how draining it can get sometimes. And I remember some years ago, I and a friend did a report for a special kid, and the parents to that kid also started a foundation, and just taking us through her regular day was exhausting to hear, not to talk of actually doing that. So can you talk can you talk a little bit about identity shock? One of the chapters in the book, what's that all about? When you talk about identity shock, and how do people navigate that shock? People that are working with special needs children.
Hmm. Well, I don't know if you use, and whoever's listening uses this term in where you are, but we have a term called sticker shock. And sticker shock is when you go to buy something and you look at it and it's like, oh, so much more money. I can't do that. Sticker shock. Well, it's kind of like sticker shock. All right. You find yourselves asking over and over again in every circumstance, some new thing happens, and you find yourself saying, okay, now who am I? Okay. It often begins with these responses that are, I don't know, like someone, you would have some type of impairment and you're in uncharted territory and your life is changing and you're feeling all of this and values are challenged and you're trying to figure out who you are while you're processing through all these new things. I mean, my body language right now, goes along with it. You feel like, huh, who, where am I? What am I doing now? Why do I need to do that? Did I miss that? What, it's just that constant sense of stress, trying to find your way,
Mm,
and you lose who
mm,
you are. You become the problem. You Everything about your life, everything you think about, the little things you push away. You don't take care of yourself necessarily, and you just lose who you are in the
wow.
identity and what you can do, and so it needs to come to a better place. You can't stay there. It's extremely unhealthy to stay there.
Okay, so how do you get yourself out of that?
Well, I'm not a therapist. I have 5 of them in the book,
Okay.
but the way to get yourself out of that would be to read through the book. I have many parents and siblings in the book and therapists that show what worked for them. For example, some of them just found a way to have a caregiver come in, while give the other caregiver a relief, for a period of time, just to have some time away, just to have some time to themselves. For some, it meant sports. They had to go out and play tennis as hard and fast as they could and let their body calm down. For others, it was writing and journaling to God, journaling hearts and where they were at. And because the suffering is real, the pain is real, and it doesn't just poof go away.
Mm, mm,
You have to find ways that within your own soul and life, you can then process out a healthy response. And it takes training. You're getting retrained. The person that's in there is getting retrained. When I was a teacher, I had to be retrained with every classroom and every edition of every child, because this one I may have to hold their hand, this one I may have to lay down, this one I may have to take the paste out of their mouth. You just never know what's going to go on in a classroom. Well, even more so in a family. And so finding those
Wow.
respites of peace, finding those respites, oases where you can let your brain and your body settle down is really healthy.
Wow.
And I have
Oh,
to say,
thank
to
you.
each his own. It's different with everybody.
Of course. So I think the next question I would like to ask is the stigma around special needs, children with special needs. There's lots of stigma. So can you talk about how you raise children with special needs to still have some sort confidence, dignity, and carry themselves with confidence and dignity, and how you also, advise for a parent to, raise their children with special needs in a environment whereby there's a lot of stigma, there's a lot of, some people don't want to even associate themselves with them because they do not even understand it. So can you just talk about the stigma around special needs, how to deal with it, how to raise a kid that's still, you can still explore or find their hidden talent, their gifts, and get them to build their confidence in that.
That's very good. I've been to over 55 countries, like I said, and it really partially depends on what your culture is, whether it's a country or whether it's a local city or just a family culture. It depends on that because the stigma will be different in every one of those settings, depending on the worldview of the people that are around you. I have seen people tied to trees, staked to the ground. I've seen them hidden. I've seen them, in different places and different times because of what you're talking about. And the sense that when I'd go into some of the places, and I think really maybe even still in the United States, but when I go in some of the places, the very first thing that they need to know is they're not cursed. I don't know how many times I have had people say that they think they were cursed by God, and that's why this happened. And so you need to read your Bible, everybody, because God loves you and he loves your special needs family, and you are not cursed. I mean, that's one of the things I will start with saying. And even point out, scriptures that talk about welcoming the crippled, welcoming the blind, welcoming the lame, into the home and into banquets, and just show them the love of God and how valid it is at every level. And so therefore, this is not a curse from God. And so getting that mindset change like that is really critical. And then there's a whole lot of forgiveness that has to go on, because you don't know if this child, if it's a child, it could be an adult, it could be Alzheimer's with a husband, but if it's a child, you don't know that what you ate before you were pregnant created something, what you swallowed, what you put in your arm, just in case there was drug addiction or whatever. What part did you play? Okay, well then the stigma is on you, meaning you to you. Okay, I'm to blame. I have guilt. Possibly all that kind of stuff. So you have to get to the place where first and foremost you say, because Jesus paid the price on the cross to forgive me, I forgive myself. And boy, that's a biggie right there. I forgive myself, and I trust you to help me walk this out. And then you forgive all those that had anything to do with this. A friend of mine, it was a car accident. Somebody else, it was a bicycle accident. Somebody else, it was something else. Somebody fell off a cliff. And so those are not diagnosed diseases or problems in DNA. They're an accident or an event that happened in the moment. And so why did that happen? Where is the guilt? Where is the shame? And everybody has to forgive everybody, is what I'm saying.
Mm.
The guilt, it doesn't do any good to hold on to whatever stigma you've been given by anyone. If everybody else doesn't understand, come to the awareness that you and your special needs person are valuable. You're valuable in the kingdom of God. You're valuable in your life, and what you do in and for them is extremely valuable. before the spirit realm as well as in the natural.
Wow. Wow. That was very insightful. You're valuable, and you should not own the shame. You should not allow guilt to, restrain you, to keep you down. And
Yeah.
then don't take this as a curse from God. Don't rather than have it drive you away from God, it should bring you closer to God.
Yeah.
I think those were some of the points that you
Yeah.
made that truly resonated. So
Yeah.
while going through the book, I sort of got a sense that the book was probably written for parents, but I'd just like to know, who did you envision as your primary readers when you were writing this book, and what do you hope they will take away from it? That is, after reading everything, in case they miss out on all the details, in case they miss, what is that key thing that you want them to, sort of hold on to as an anchor?
Right at the very beginning, when I quoted the "until I see you face to face," it was about peace. And that was my primary, a respite of peace is what I wanted to bring. And then an an excitement and an anticipation of strength and enablement beyond their own.
Excitement of peace, respect of peace, and states of enablement. So, would you agree with my position that this book was it written for primarily parents of children with special needs, or
Yeah.
is it a
Yes.
diverse? Yeah.
Yes, I did. But here, the first title was, the subtitle was different. And the reason I changed the subtitle to Light on the Path with, caring for those with special needs was because even though I wrote it for parents, I had friends and family members and people pass it around and read it and say, Janet, this really helped me. And with my husband with Alzheimer's. Or Janet, this really helped me with my college age child who is brilliant, IQ off the charts. I mean, brilliant. And it created all kinds of social or um, relational problems, for them that they had to navigate. And so I realized that there were other types of people that could gain from what was written. And so that's why I changed it. So, but it is primarily for parents.
Oh, that's amazing. So, I would just like to move on to know about your personal journey with caregiving. You said you went to school, you got trained, and what was that journey like? And how did that experience shape the message of this book? Was it a difficult journey, or was it just something that you knew you need to, do, and you just muzzled your way through it? Or how was that journey like, and how did that shape the experiences? How did those experiences shape the message of this book?
Hmm. Interesting question. I think first I went to a conference. It was at a Glow International conference where Johnny Erickson Tata, the paraplegic, I think you might know her, was one of the main speakers. And it was a conference talking about evangelism of all things. And so as I'm sitting there listening, she said, I'll give you a hidden people group. You want to see a hidden people group? And then she talked about people with special needs, in wheelchairs or in that couldn't get out, couldn't go to church, couldn't find out anything. And in those days, we didn't have the social media that we have now to be able to access things. And so I remember sitting there being so touched by what she shared. I remember saying to God, how do I get in that people group? Help me get in that people group. I want to help. And so then I don't remember if it's a few months or a year later, financially, my husband and I needed me to go to work. I was a stay-at-home mom before that, and we needed me to find a job. And that's when I went down to the school district and I said, what can I do that I can be home with my children? And they put me in those special needs classes. And the people in the stories in this book were my friends. They're all, I know them all. They aren't somebody I chose, because it was a good story. These were all my friends, and each one of them shares their help. And when I was in those classes, like I said, at first it was kind of brain melting, oh, what am I going to do? Who am I now? Because I really didn't have training. I have 2 doctorate degrees in theology, but I I didn't have training in special needs. So at first I was subbing and aides and things like that, the classes they put me in, but they liked me. So, hey, it went from there, but what it did, I not only grew to love the children in the classroom, I enjoyed them. I found ways to just some of them were just so unique in special ways. You find little giftings here and there and sweetnesses and things that you can really, really have a good time while you're with them over time. And the parents, when I did the support group for the parents, I marveled at these parents. I I think I say in my book, I think they could run for president of the United States and they could do it. Just because of what they had to do to be a parent of that child, that particular child.
Wow.
The character, the love, the practical, the willing to help others, it was just amazing. And so it brought a whole new dimension of appreciation in my life.
Wow, wow, wow. Hearing you talk about the parents of the children and how tall of an order it is that you equate it with being the president of the United States, I would like you to speak a little bit about how this book addresses the emotional and practical sides of caregiving. Are there particular insights you think will be especially comforting or using or useful rather? And because it's a lot, clearly from what you have said, it's a lot. And so what do you think if you were to right now off the bat just give us three emotional and practical sides of caregiving and how to handle it? Give us three insights on how to handle it, that someone could just while tumbling on this video, um put it into practice and just have results to be able to uh, manage the stress, the burden that comes with caregiving.
There's no magic button here to push. There's no magic 3 steps to make, but there are healthy things that can be done. One, find a good listening friend. I mean, that seems so simple, but it's true. Find a good listening friend that you can share whatever's going on in the moment, and they'll listen and care about you and care about your family. 2, pray. Pray. Go before God for your own emotional well-being and go before God for your family. And 3, look for practical, simple things that you can do to navigate the items that you need. For example, at the support group, a new person would come in and they would find out, okay, you have this, this, and this. All right. Okay, you need a wheelchair. Okay, you need special education here. You need a program over there. We'll help you. So you get in a group of other family members that are doing the same thing, and they're great at helping one another find equipment that's needed and just a variety of emotional well-being, help, therapy, things like that. Remembering that the potential of trauma is great. So bring the trauma before the Lord and release the trauma as much as you can at every day. I actually believe that when you go to bed at night and you put your head on that pillow, God can defrag your brain. I believe it. And so it's a very practical thing to lay your head on a pillow and say, okay, defrag my brain. You know what stresses I've been in. You know what's been going on. You know what the future holds, and I don't. Help me tomorrow.
Wow, wow. That's very insightful. It's not a one push button to solve all the problems. It's a series of things that if we continuously do, you would be able to manage it. Of course, with the help of God. So I'm just trying to pick out another question here because I've asked you something similar to this already. So okay, so there was something you mentioned in your book. You said God's description of your persona and purpose with His gift of forgiveness unlocks your heart. Can you explain a little? Can you break it down? What does that mean exactly, and how does that happen?
Well, I think unforgiveness is probably the core issue of just about all of our emotional trouble when it's relational. I don't mean chemical in the body. I mean relational trouble. And unforgiveness essentially is like slam that door, you know. And what it does, it slams the door against any kind of healthy emotional living. And it's like having
Mm.
entangling vines coming up over the door, that strangle what God wants to bring in and through your life and what you are hoping and desiring to have in life every day, until it's really hard to find a handle to open that door. It isolates us from hope. It isolates us from any sense of what God could do. And it's very, very important that we remember, and mentioned earlier, that we forgive ourselves. Because even if
Yeah.
even if a parent or a person wasn't the reason or partial reason why some of this happened, all right, they still can get so frustrated in a day that they act out in an unhealthy way, and they know they were wrong in the way they handled that. So they have to immediately go and say, I choose to forgive myself. And the forgiveness is so critical to a healthy life. And sometimes when we hold unforgiveness towards somebody else, it's a little like taking poison and hoping they will die.
Mm.
We're the ones that suffer from it. It actually causes toxic chemicals to go down into our organs and creates problems. And the longer we hold on to it, the longer those toxic chemicals will be there, and it'll hurt our body. It's extremely unhealthy, physically, emotionally, spiritually, very unhealthy. So
Mm.
choose to forgive. The thing people don't realize is that self-forgiveness is really hard, but you have to make a quality choice to choose and trust God to help your heart. But forgiving other people, maybe it was a doctor that did something wrong, a nurse that did something wrong, somebody else, whatever, in the setting that caused the situation you're dealing with, you have to forgive them as well. And it's not meaning
Mm.
that you're letting them get away with it. That's not it. You're releasing the situation to God and trusting him to take care of that. Some people think, well, do I have to be reconciled with that man that struck my child in the car, in the car accident? No, you do not have to reconcile. Everything that is forgiveness is not reconciliation. Sometimes
Mm.
forgiveness leads to reconciliation, but it's not the same.
Not always.
And to be able to forgive, sometimes people need to understand that, or they just can't forgive.
Wow. Hearing you talk about God and, self-forgiveness, some people find it difficult to not blame God for their present circumstance. So it define, a lot of people understand God to be sovereign, which I believe he is, uh, to be sovereign. So, and I think that's why atheists also have a difficult time trying to understand, oh, how can there be a good God and then there is a bad world? You hear them yapper all the time about that. But my question is, for a parent that probably had, good foundation with God, had a strong faith, how would you what would you say to that parent that is probably having difficulty navigating, and the fact that they give birth to a special needs kid and they can't blame God for it, but they really think that is God that gave them that kid. So how do we balance that out? How do they accept it, forgive themselves, understand it? How do they, I think what I'm asking is, how do they navigate that and still maintain their faith and keep their faith grounded, without, because there are several reasons why some people can find that easy to navigate. Some others, will just stay in
Mhm.
the state of anger towards God and blame God for everything. So how do you think um such parents can navigate those difficult seasons without losing their faith?
Excellent question. And I'm not sure I have an answer for anyone watching that is going to make a difference. And all I can say is what I believe and I know. And you have every parent, every person has to make up their own mind. It is the definition of sovereignty. My definition of sovereignty does not mean if your child is born with one eye here and one eye here, that God designed it. My definition of sovereignty is very different than that. The sovereign God definitely has a plan, and he can enter in, his sovereign grace can enter in any circumstance and situation. But for me, my belief system, it does not mean everything about you was designed by him, because we have a fallen
Wow.
world from Adam and Eve and Genesis. We live in a fallen world. We live in a world that has evil, and it has accidents, and it has all of these things in it. And so because of a fallen world, we're going to live in circumstances that create suffering, death, dying, disappointments, all kinds of pains. And I don't blame God for any of it. I blame fallen man. That's why we need Jesus. That's why we need him to change hearts. That's why we need, because then comes in life, then comes in beauty, then comes in caring. Everything you read about him is all about caring for the minimalized. The people that were broken, the people that had great needs. That's the sovereignty of God to me. See, the heart of God is the sovereignty of God toward people. And if they are unable to come out of the blaming God, they're going to have anguish all the days of
Yeah.
their life. They will.
Yeah. Hearing you talk about how God cares, and I just want to ask this question. I'll just go straight to it. How does God care? Because some people, the only way they can imagine God's care for them is, okay, healing, a miracle. I just wake up one day and my child is perfect and does not have. So how beyond, miraculous healings, how does God care?
Well, I have seen miracles, and many, actually, thousands and thousands of divine intervention in miracles. And every time I'm with somebody that needs one, I'm going to lean that direction and see what God will do. At the same time, I've seen thousands and thousands of prayers that no one received a miracle, that kind of thing. So what does God do? If he doesn't do a miracle, what does he do? He changes us on the inside. He empowers us. He brings healthy ways of thinking and living and doing, and then you find yourself persevering in a way you didn't think you could persevere. Sometimes it's finding help where you didn't know there was help. One of the chapters is I call it it's about elephants. All right, and the analogy is elephants when they're looking for water and how they find water, as compared to a parent looking for help. How do I find help? But there's miracles too, that sometimes we don't see them as a miracle because the arm doesn't grow out, the legs don't walk still. But the miracle is you found help, whether it was a person or a piece of equipment or a procedure or whatever it is. We have to look at all areas of the life around us when we say, God, help us, strengthen us, equip us, empower us, and you know our need. And I think that's a beautiful thing, that God would take an imperfect person and bring his glory and his beauty to help them navigate life. And, the other perspective, we all die. I mean, that sounds kind of blunt, but and life crosses that boundary. The second
Yeah.
that person crosses that boundary, they have everything. They have a new body. They have a vibrant life, and heaven is a real place. It's, don't just float around somewhere. It's a real place. It has homes, it has friends, it has family. And so keeping the perspective of, yes, God is doing a miracle. He's going to give new life across that boundary while he helps us have life in between.
Wow, that's really amazing. Um, so I guess you would say that, God linking you up with that hidden group was an act of care, caring for you and equipping you with the tools that you needed to uh, in this space, handling special needs children. So I think there was a particular phrase that you have in your book that I would just like you to throw some light on, which is finite infinity, limited yet unlimited. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I write that it's a realization that diagnosed lack and limitations can become creative, eternal, unlimited potential. They can. The chapter really is based on Disney's character, Buzz Lightyear. I don't know if you know Buzz Lightyear, the cartoon. Okay. Well, Buzz Lightyear, every time he went to take off to fly, would say, to infinity and beyond. So that's where I got the thought to infinity and beyond. But it's about God's eternal kingdom, for both the caregivers and the family's future forever, forevermore, what God has in store. It's infinity and beyond is really, in other words, how do I say that? Finite, finite humans who have welcomed Jesus into their lives have infinite possibilities for a victorious life.
Hmm.
So, finite humans who have welcomed Jesus, that's the answer. They have a warranty. I call it a warranty. They have a warranty that goes beyond the earth and into infinity, from limited to unlimited. They can blast like Buzz Lightyear, past the boundaries to the unknown with Jesus Christ as a
Wow.
defender.
Wow. Wow. That's truly amazing. You know, one of the things that I think was a central theme in the book is peace,
Mhm.
and how, you know, how important it is. Could you just elaborate on the role of peace in caregiving? Because caregiving can get so overwhelming. And how do you, when you're losing it, or when you feel like you're drawn in different directions, how do you how does a caregiver ground themselves to experience that peace? Like, the several things that are calling for their attention, sometimes just feel like it's chaotic at times, because some of those caregivers are giving care to more than one special needs kid, and some, because kids on their own without any special
Yeah,
needs are a handful. So, and then, you know, having to navigate that. So how do you think that those such people can still, you know, find their peace amidst the chaos? And
I
how,
actually,
what role does it play in caregiving?
okay, I'm not sure I can answer that in a way that would help someone, but for me, it's very simple, because it's the only thing I can do in the moment is stop and take a deep breath, maybe 2 or 3 times, a deep breath. Do one of the little exercises that causes your heart to calm down, where you hold your arms and your hands in place and do this. It actually, you start fast and then you slow down, and it actually helps your whole body come into a calmer. So there's physical natural things that can be done in the moment, like the deep breath and calming with the hands. And then I'm a prayer woman. It's who I am. And so I have to say, I'm always throwing up a prayer. Help. Doesn't have to be any big religious sounding prayer. It's just, you know me, you know what I need. Help. And then close my eyes for a moment, take another deep breath, and just step forward and keep moving and trusting that he's going to help me do what I feel like I cannot do on my own.
That's a good way to round up, calling to God to help us do what we cannot do. And those physical exercises also help to
Mm-hmm.
calm you down in the moment. And this is very insightful. I'm hoping that just by this interview, lots of people that have been looking for resources to help them through this journey, that they would be able to tap into the wealth of knowledge that you have provided in this book, By the Help of God. And, you know, they also will see the light on the path while caring for those with special needs. Uh, Thank you so much, Melanie Janet Mangum. I hope I'm pronouncing that name well. And Janet, we've been speaking with Janet, and Janet is the founder of Partners for Transformation and the author of Until I See. It's been a pleasure having to interview you on Kratos Publisher Author Interview. And I mean, I can't wait to finish reading the book. I started, I couldn't finish it through, but I can't wait. And I know that there are lots of people that will benefit from this beautiful work. Thank you so much. I don't know if Mr. Ade is there and would like to jump in at this point. Okay. Mr. Ade, are you with us?
Hello. Yes, I am. How you doing? I'm
Yeah,
pretty
we're
good.
fine. We just rounded up the interview.
Really good. I'm going to stop recording now.